You guys are our first test subjects of using SAGE3 and deploying your own servers. For those that don't know what SAGE3 is, so SAGE3 stands for the Smart Amplified Group Environment, and it's like an open source collaborative software where everybody joins in on these boards, and then they can work together making apps, stickies, uploading images, videos, PDFs. We're kind of similar to applications like Miro, but some of the key differences between us and Miro is that with us, you can host your own server. A lot of these commercial applications, they want you to use their servers and pay for a subscription, so it costs money, and then you're giving them your data. We can develop custom apps since our source, everything's open source. And we're focused more on supporting data scientists, educators, and researchers, while Miro and stuff, they're focused on designers and artists and brainstorming. So the SAGE project itself started in 2004, which is right about the time Facebook started. It was written all in C++, and it would cost a lot of money to set one up, $500,000 to $1 million per system. In 2014, right around the ALS ICE challenge, SAGE2 was being developed, and it was written all in JavaScript. And the cost of the systems came down. A single PC could drive a whole display wall. In relation to SAGE, the original SAGE, you had to have a cluster of computers to drive these big display walls. And the systems were still kind of expensive. Big display walls aren't cheap. And then right around the beginning of COVID, SAGE3 started. And it's written in TypeScript and Python. And one of the big differences for SAGE3 is that you don't have to have a big display wall, since SAGE runs on the client's computer, which you're seeing right here on my laptop. So everybody has like a mirrored copy of what the wall is or what the board is. So now the prices come down even more, and we're focusing more for SAGE3 with data science, notebooks, cloud AI, and
Right now, are we recording?
let's see. Are you able to record this?
Yes.
I'll be appreciative. So continuing on, I like to think of SAGE.
Make sure they record.
I think it's recording. There's a big red dot.
Oh, okay, it's recording. Okay, go.
Or do you want me to stop recording or?
No, keep going.
Oh, good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Wasn't sure.
So I kind of like to think of SAGE3 as like a multi-user operating system that's in the cloud. So some of the scenarios that you might use SAGE3. So I don't know if you can see in this picture, LandSAGE. So you can create these like big dashboards that you can use these big, large display walls and set up these big dashboards for LandSAGE or maybe a weather application, or in Jason's case, he uses it to monitor the surf to make sure he knows when to go out and surf. You can do brainstorming. So for a lot of projects in Hawaii, we've created these like brainstorming type boards where you're dropping stickies. You're all gathering around the wall and you're making these big brainstorming type situations, but you can also, after the meeting, add more stuff to the meeting afterwards. So it creates this asynchronous type working environment where when you're at home and you come up with a new idea, you just jump into the board and then post more stuff to the brainstorming board. And these brainstorming boards continue to live forever. They don't disappear when the meeting dies. You can do collaborative coding and writing. So with SAGE3, you can do multi-user, multi-screen shares. So people can have, I think Jason's tested up to 10 screen shares at a time, one board. So you can see all the students' laptops up on the board to get a good context of what they're doing. And you can also create interactive posters. So one of our students, RJ, he works on a project called Articulate, and he had to do a presentation about Articulate. So we created this big dashboard about what it's about, but then it's also an interactive, so you can have like your app being interactive with your poster. Some other use cases, we did one for a paper seminar where we all read a paper. The paper's on the left-hand side, and then everybody over the week would fill in. So each one of these columns right here, I can actually draw. Let me draw. Each one of these little columns is a student's analysis of the paper. So they would fill in with their information over the week, what they thought about the paper, what their analysis was of it. And then at the end of the week, we all gathered in front of the big display wall and talked about the paper. And I think this is the student RJ presenting his articulate project. So one of the big differences between SAGE2 for the people that have used SAGE2 is that SAGE2, only the big display walls showed the content. So you can see like these images on the laptop screen right here aren't the same as the ones up on the big display wall. All you can do from the laptop is move stuff around on the display wall. But within SAGE3, since everybody has a copy of the content, everybody sees what the wall sees. So this is the big display wall, a little mock-up of it, and then two laptops connected, seeing the same exact content. And with SAGE2, you were limited by the size of the wall, in the sense you couldn't be bigger than the wall because the wall kind of dictated the size of your space that you could put content up on. But with SAGE3, we now have an infinite canvas that you can put as much stuff as you want on, and you can keep growing and growing over time. So like with this wall,
ส่งลิงก์ให้ในเมลแล้วครับ
I can zoom out and you can see that the wall, I've kind of contained it to a wall size, but you can keep growing out as much as you want. So some of the motivation that drove SAGE3 is this new hybrid work environment. So with the pandemic, a lot of people are working from home, and a lot of people didn't have access to even use their big display walls. So our big display walls weren't even used during the pandemic for like a year and a half, so they kind of sent dormant. So we didn't even get to kind of use SAGE. So with more and more people working from home, in the office, or in the field, having everybody be able to see the wall on their own computer was really key in the drive to do the whole mirrored content on everybody's laptop. One of our key aspects is the support for data scientists, allowing scientists and researchers to bring their data into SAGE. Jupyter is widely used, but is very linear in the sense it's a top-down notebook. Code is, your mental model of the notebook is just a linear view top to bottom. So with SAGE3, with its big display infinite canvas, can you make Jupyter notebooks be a little more spatial, 2D type notebooks? So it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but you can see that the notebook cells are right there, the Jupyter notebook, and then you can branch them out. And then it's more Jupyter cells. More Jupyter cells. So it creates this 2D spatial notebook instead of being restricted to a linear representation of your code. And with Python being so popular for data scientists, we wanted to create code cells that people can type into, and then the code is processed on the back end. Another big topic, which everybody I'm sure is aware of, is this AI, natural language processing, with GPT-3 being all in the news and everything. Okay. So one of Jason's core ideas is that can we have AI participate in a meeting similar to how a grad student would participate in a meeting? In the sense, if you uploaded a bunch of PDFs and they all had some type of relation, say about weather or something, can the AI then go look at and say, hey, these other papers that are also talking about weather, you might be interested in. So let me show you those papers. So can the AI be aware of what content's on the board and provide useful insights to the user in a meaningful way? And with like GPT-3, can it also help users with problem solving and providing code snippets? Could you have the code cell open and then just ask it, hey, can you write me a quick algorithm that will process my data and show me a visualization? And outside of just coding, could it also be used to help you write stuff within SAGE3? So you're not even doing any coding, but you're writing like a paper within SAGE3. Let's just have GPT-3 integrated, and then it could talk and fill in your paper as you write it. So it kind of hits on two types of AIs, an active AI, which we think of as like the user actively asks the AI to do something. Hey, SAGE3, can you from this COVID data set, can you show me a visualization or any correlations? Then a passive AI that's sitting in the background sees all the PDFs on your board and says, hey, maybe your PDFs, we can see these correlations, so maybe we can cluster them and move all the PDFs into different groups so you can get a better idea of what papers are related. Or maybe it's like your board looks a little messy, you want me to help organize your apps, move stuff around. That's like the passive AI where it's sitting in on the meeting, sort of as a grad student would, or someone as and being actively participating in the background. So any questions so far? I go into a little demo of Sage.
No question? Anyone? Oh, okay, no.
Okay. So the demo, so I'm going to go from like the very first, so you downloaded a client of SAGE3, and this client is a desktop application, and the desktop application is there so you can find different servers, SAGE3 servers around the world. In the sense, the client doesn't hold the web app itself, but there's all these different servers that will end up serving it. So we have the Chicago server and the Hawaii server. Sometime in the future, there'll be a Thailand server. And then there'll be a multitude of other servers. So the Electron desktop client is kind of like a bookmark type system to help you keep track of all the servers around the world. So in this, I'll show you outside. So if I go back to the server list, so this, I can see the Chicago server, the Hawaii development, and I can go to any of these servers. And if you set up the Thailand server, I don't know what you would have it called, but the Thailand server would just go right here, and then you would be able to access it. So if I go back to the Hawaii server, go back to the board, and let me go back to that list. So the first thing you'll see when you go to a server is the login screen. So the login screen, we have two types of logins right now. We have Google login, and then we have the CI logon. And then there's also guests. Guests have like a limited functionality. They can't create rooms or boards, which I'll get into what those are, and they can't upload assets. So they're kind of more like viewers that can participate in meetings and move stuff around, but they can't do more fundamental things. So if I was to log in with Google, it's already memorized. I have my two accounts, and I'd log in using my Google account. We use that because we don't really want to store usernames and passwords on our servers and worry about security issues. So we're just using Google and CI logon to help with that. When you finally log in, you're presented with this huge list of rooms I mean. So these are rooms. They're kind of like rooms contain boards, and then boards are what you saw with all the apps and everything and the stickies everywhere. So within the lava room, we have a bunch of boards. And then you can categorize them by classroom. So this is a class that one of our professors teach, and they have a bunch of different boards per student of their different projects that they're creating. You can create new rooms up at the top here with this big plus symbol, create a new room, and that room would pop up once you created it. So if I go back to the lava room, I'm going to go to an empty board. So this board has absolutely nothing in it, unlike the other board I was just in. And then to start putting stuff onto the board, there's this little panel that floats around that you can move from the sidebar on the left. There's different menus and panels that you can open up. So the applications panel lists all the applications. This can also be moved around and detached from it. And then if I wanted to create an app, so the sticky app, I would just have to click the button, and then it would pop up right into the board. And if I clicked it again, another one would pop up. You can also click and drag one out. So if you want to position it where you want it, then it'll pop up. There's other apps in here like Leaflet, Notepad, Screen Share, Sticky. I'm not going to go into all those right away. Users would list any users that were on the board. I don't know if RJ can join the LandSAGE 4 demos board, and then he'll show up. So once he joins that, he'll show up. Any assets? So any assets that are contained in the room. So all the boards share assets. In the sense, if I uploaded something to this board, another board within this room could see that asset and show it on their board also. So now you can see Roderick, you can see his little cursor floating around. If he moved it, his little cursor moves around also. So you can see other users that are on the board. You can move things, you can type things. Hey, RJ. The next panel I'll show, so that's the users panel, the applications panel. Another useful one is the navigation panel. So this shows you what the current layout of the board is currently. So if I move this leaflet app, you can see that the layout on the mini map changes. So it's just like a mini map. You can click things on the mini map to jump to them. It just gives you contextual awareness of what the board looks like and where people are. And then annotations lets you draw onto the board. So if I open this, I choose green, I can now draw on the board, which is really useful for like a touchpad if you had it. So there's RJ drawing something. There's Jason. Jason's now joined this board. So if I go back to the user panel, I can see multiple people join this. Morris has actually joined it.
Sorry, Ryan, could you please pause for a moment? Yeah, I'm
Yep.
joining your board and I want to show the vice president here that I can access your board in Hawaii, even at Mahidol University.
Okay.
อาจารย์พี่กิฟต์ครับโอเคพี่กิฟต์เห็นเนี่ยฮะชื่อผมนะฮะโอเคผมสามารถตอนนี้ผม access เข้าไปที่ไอตัว display ของเขาที่ Hawaii ได้ผมสามารถสร้างสติ๊กที่คือเขามีวอลอย่างนี้ที่นู่นเหมือนกันนะแล้วตอนนี้เขาสตรีมไอ้หน้าวอลเข้ามาที่ของเราผมก็สามารถเข้าไปเขียนข้อความบนหน้าวอลก็ได้ครับ Okay, Ryan, you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so annotations, you can draw on the board and stuff, and there's also a picture button you can take. So yeah, that's a quick breakdown. So like on the bottom left, actually, I'd only cover this. There's if you don't like the dark mode, there's also a light mode, which is a little blinding, but you can use light mode if you want. Dark mode. You can also change your account. You can change your name. You can change your color. You can also change yourself to a wall. So the wall feature, what this is doing, so if RJ enabled his, I'm not going to enable mine. So RJ is now a wall. And he shows up as a wall. There's a little square in the users panel now. What that's telling me is that's his display. So what this is helpful for is if you set up a big display wall running Sage, you want to know where the layout of your apps are within that context of that big display wall. You now know where those apps are on the board itself. So I know on RJ's screen, if he quit moving it, that little purple outline, this sticking out is now in the upper right-hand corner of his screen. Any other features you can think of, RJ?
Follow.
Or the follow feature? So if I didn't know where, so Mort's joined, but I didn't know where he was, I can go over to the users panel, click his avatar, and I can hit show cursor. It'll jump straight to where his cursor's at, where he's drawing a cat. Or I can click show his view, so it'll match his viewport as best as I can. Or I can hit follow. So now if Moores moves his location on the board, my screen should follow where he goes. So if you drag the board, if you hit escape, you can escape annotations. There you go. So now him moving is causing my screen to move, so I can follow people without having to like drive and try and follow them by hand. I'm gonna unfollow them.
I have a question from the chat.
Yeah.
They're concerned, or they had a question on sticky notes. There was no owner name attached to it, but that's because we have titles
Okay.
turned on.
So yeah, when we were first designing Sage, we included title bars on all the apps. Kind of how you're similar to like Windows or Mac OS has a title bar, but we felt like it kind of cluttered everything. So if you want to see who created this sticky, there are title bars, but it's a kind of a hidden feature. If you right click on the board, there's a feature here called Show App Titles. So now if I enable that, you can see who created the stickies with the Show App Titles enabled. For stickies, it shows that. Leaflet, I guess it's not going to show anything. It depends on the app developer if he actually sets the app title. So if I created a PDF, find a PDF in the assets, dragged it out on the board, that's the name of the PDF. So that shows up as the app title. I can show some features of the app, so like PDFs. For those that use Sage, you can add more pages to show at a time. You can cycle through them. This should all be syncing with RJ, with Jason, with Moores. Everybody should have the same app sync for the PDF. Another way, if you want to be, another nice feature is to copy the board link. So if I copy this board link, and now it's made a URL. So if I go out to Chrome and paste it, it's a huge long URL, but you can share that through an email and then have people access this board. So I'm going to open SAGE3 and it's going to send me straight back to this board because that's the board I just copied. You can share access to these boards with people using that copy the board link, sharing it through emails or Zoom. We'll get to plugins later, but okay. I'm going to go back to the presentation board. Plugin. So again, we were showing the other apps before. Yeah, there's the PDF we just showed. Images you can just drag and drop. So if I wanted to add a new image to the board, it's just a drag and drop action. So here's an image in my file system. I think it's the same image. But if I drag it out onto the board, it uploads. The upload's done, and now it's gonna, that window, the image just pops up on the board where I dragged it. Delete it. You can do the same thing with PDFs, videos. So this is a video. So some of these apps, they don't show up in the applications list because they're just file viewers. So any of the viewers, like PDF viewer, image viewer, video viewer, we don't show them in the applications lists because they're just like viewers of different media files. But when you drag and drop that file, it will automatically open that file, the application that needs to view it. Then there's things I like to call integrated apps. So these are apps built into the source code. And I'm talking like Leaflet, the Leaflet app. This is a web view. So this is windy.com. The kernels and then the Sage cells. So like I said earlier, we want to support data scientists and Jupyter Lab users. So this is a Sage cell. This is just Python code that's sent to the backend, ran in a Jupyter Lab type instance, and then it sent back the results to the front end. So if I rerun this, it just generates that picture again. But if I change, I can also drag out the results. So I can drag this image out onto the board to save that reference to that image, and that'll change the code. So if I'm going to write something simple here. Print hello. So that code super simpler than the other stuff, but just showing you that the Python is running on the back end and then it's sent back to the user. then this little app above it is the different kernels that the users have created of Python. So for this little Sage shell that I had created, you can see that the kernel I'm using is called my name, Ryan. And it popped up in this list. So if I wanted to create a new kernel, Thai kernel, it'll pop up here, Thai kernel. Then from here, I can then select the Thai kernel, then create, let's see, x equals 5. That's not very exciting. But then if I create a new Sage cell, choose the same kernel, the Thai kernel, print x 5. So the Sage cells share the same kernel if you select the same kernel. So you can create like an instance of JupyterLab within Sage with all your Sage cells. Delete that. Zoom out a little. The last feature is called plugin applications. So this is how we're actually going to show you how to make applications. So it's not built into the source code. You actually upload like a web app or a web page into Sage at runtime. So you don't have to mess with the SAGE3 source code, bundle it, and then redeploy it to the server. You can just upload a new app using the plugin interface. So what I'm showing you here is Unity. Unity is a 3D game engine that a lot of students like to use, and we use it in Jason's video game class and VR class. But now this allows us to show students can then bundle their Unity application as a WebGL application. Then they can just upload it to the board for other users to play, try out. This next to it is just a normal web application that if I click the button, it should be syncing across everybody's across with every other client. So the plugins, to show you the most basic example, you would upload it through this interface, but let me show you what the code looks like. So in the most basic example, it can be a plain HTML file. I'm going to show you some source code. Sorry if this gets tedious. So this is just an HTML file that just has hello LandSAGE 14. Then if I go to this file, I bundle up the folder it's contained in. I mean bundle up, I mean compress it into a zip file. I have that compressed zip file that contains a folder that contains my index HTML file. I then go back to the SAGE3. From the menu down at the bottom left, I go to plugins. I choose that zip file. I name my plugin test app, description, test description. Hit upload. It uploads the zip to the SAGE3 server. And now if I open the plugins panel, that's right next to the applications panel, you'll see test app is now listed here. If I open it, it's just that simple hello LandSAGE 4 paragraph tag HTML file. Both these apps above it were done exactly the same way. So it's a way of getting web apps or web applications into SAGE3 easily without having to deal with the source code. To show you like a little more complicated example, Leaflet. This is just like a web app that shows a Leaflet instance, which I think you guys are all aware of Leaflet because I think LandSAGE used Leaflet before. And we actually have a plugin that you have to import, which I'll get into a little later. And then I can sync state with using SAGE3 from my plugin app code. So now if I go and bundle this into a zip file, which I've already done before the meeting, which is another it's a folder that contains the index HTML and all the assets that are required to run that app. I go back to the plugins, choose the Leaflet zip file, Leaflet plugin, Leaf, upload it up. It's now popped up into the plugins drop-down, the plugins panel. I open it, and now Leaflet exists within SAGE3 within the plugin. This is also really nice. It's completely encapsulated from everything else in Sage. So you can use whatever libraries you want. You can build it however you want. You can use React, Angular, Svelte, a plain HTML. You can use D3 in one version. You can use D3 version 5 in one plugin, and then another plugin you can use D3 version 8. So it doesn't cross pollute any other apps. So it's all self-contained within that. So that was a lot of information really quick. Is there any questions?
Not for me. Anyone else? Questions?
If it's too much all right now, we are documenting everything. So there is
Okay.
documentation on how to set up a plugin or set up your own server and all that. No? Okay. So the next part, we'll quickly talk about the architecture of how it all works.
Ryan, we have one question.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
Kong,
you.
go ahead.
I'm Kong from Cambodia IDC. Because we sometimes we go to this SAGE3 and how to do if we want one person to be a controller of the screen, because sometimes like more many people come and we see the pop up on this point, what we call it is the pointer, mainly pointer, and move the screen freely. But how if we want to lock the screen? Just only one person have permission to lock the screen. What to do? You understand, right? Sorry.
It's a little hard to hear you. I don't know if Morris can repeat what the question was.
You can repeat.
Okay. Yeah, I hear both. I mean his sound in the room as well as from the WebEx, so it's like echo to me. Can you repeat again, Kong?
Again. So if in the many people go to the app, to the screen, and we want someone to lock the screen, not allow other to move the screen, how can we do? Just only one person to control the screen.
Oh, I think you're
Okay.
asking if you can.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Ryan. I just want to say that I got his question, but if you understand the question now, then please go ahead.
I think he's asking if you can lock the board down, like so nothing else could be moved. So we don't have that feature yet, but it is a feature people have requested. So it is on our issue list that we're going to implement. The one way you can if you just want to have like your display wall, large display wall and show it, you could create a private room, which I guess I didn't really go into. You can create private boards and private rooms and password boards, so if I go back out and I go to that LandSAGE 4 demos, I can't add a password to this. So now RJ and Morris can't get back into it, but now you're going to see my password, but then it's password protected. So now you have to enter your password to get in. And if you just wanted to show it, and nobody else can move it and interact with it, that's one way you kind of protected it. But yeah, there has been multiple requests that you can just lock down all content on the board so nothing can be moved or manipulated. So that is in the works. Does that answer your question?
Yes, okay, I got it.
Because yeah, RJ and Morris, they could be messing up my whole presentation by deleting apps, moving stuff around. It's kind of hopefully social etiquette that stops people at this level right now. But yeah, we are going to start integrating more ways of controlling your board from other users destroying it or messing with it.
Excuse me. I have one question. Hello, do you hear me?
Okay, we have another question.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So this for this program, we don't have the super user or the admin who can manage all the right. So everyone in this wall have the same privilege, the same authorization.
Are you able to repeat more? It's really hard to hear. It's really hard to hear.
Okay, Ryan, I got his question. Okay, he asks if there are multiple levels of user in the system, like can there be a super user that can manage other user on the board?
Not fully yet. So there is like a little pseudo way of, we call them admins, which you set in the server config file who you want to be admins. And I can show you what the admin page looks like. It's not fully realized yet. So the admin page, I can see all the rooms, all the boards, all the apps. And I can delete things from here, but I can't really manage them or do things in the sense of changing stuff. But it's a way for us to get in there. If there's a board that has like some issue or something, we can quickly delete it. But yeah, we are gonna create different levels where there's admins and users, guests. I guess the only real level right now is guests because they can't create rooms, they can't create boards, they can't create uploads. So if you don't log in, you're kind of restricted. But we are going to implement more layers to that.
Can I ask a question?
Okay, one more question, Brian.
Okay.
Actually, this one is not my question, but it's come from the chat cup. So from the NAN, if we create application that connect to the external servers, API, and database, would they be able to function properly if we upload them as the plugin, or the application need to be contained in the SAGE3 server only?
So we haven't tested if you can hit external APIs, but we have tested that you can just use what they're called. They're called CDNs, where you can grab like script files from different servers. So like we did a 3JS demo, which is like a 3D rendering program. We didn't include any of the source code. It grabbed it from a server that's external from SAGE3. So I think with that, it would work that you could use an external source, like an API that you could hit from within your plugin app. I'm like 80% sure that that would work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, continue. I think there was one last question.
Okay, we have a question here, right? So our friend is already typed in.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hello. I'm Alvin from the Philippines. So I'm just asking if you have already a server installed in Asian region so that we can lessen the latency connecting to Chicago or Hawaii, or can we set up our own SAGE server in our institution?
Yep. So Thailand is actually in the process of setting up their own server. They're the first people that are setting up a server outside of the SAGE3 group. And that is part of this talk that we'll get to and it's under server deployment, which is a whole document that goes into how to set it up. The documentation only right now discusses Windows 10 or Windows 11. That's because that was Thailand's request. We are going to put in Windows and Ubuntu next. So you'll be able to set up Ubuntu and Mac. So I'll just talk about server deployment. This architecture, we'll come back to that if we have time. So to server deployment, we use Docker images to package everything up. That allows us to be built for Windows, Mac, or Linux. So the servers that we should currently have, the Chicago server, dev server, it's running on a tiny little Mac Mini M1, which is like an $800 computer, which is a great way to get started. That's really affordable to set up a SAGE3 server. The Hawaii dev server runs on Alienware. It's a Windows 10. And then our other Hawaii server is an Alienware that runs Ubuntu. So we've tested all the operating systems, so you can set up a SAGE3 server using any operating system that you desire. And then some of the requirements for setting up your own SAGE3 server is you have to have Docker installed. You have to have a fully qualified domain name that can be like publicly found or found on your private network. So like for this server, it's sage3.manoa.hawaii.edu. You have to have SSL certificates. So that's just providing certificates, which is any normal server would require. And then the optional services. So if you want that Google login, you have to set up a Google OAuth through the Google Cloud Platform, which is free. And if you want the CI logon, you just have to set up the credential API on the CI logins website. And if you want screen sharing, so we use Twilio for screen sharing, which I'll get into in a minute. But if you want screen sharing enabled on your server, you have to register for Twilio. And all this is documented in the sense, if you want to set up Google login, there's documentation here on where you have to go into Google Cloud and what you have to do and what you need to set up. And CI logon is the same. So there's all this documentation here, how to set up the CI logon. And then for Twilio, there's documentation here also, how to set up Twilio. Everything for deploying your own server is documented here. There might be some hiccups because we haven't fully vetted it out with anybody outside, but we have the documentation's there. And if you find issues or have questions, you can email me or so authentication, yeah, Google or CI logon requires registration with those. And for the screen share Twilio, so with SAGE2, for the people that have used SAGE2, screen sharing only required the client to screen share to the wall, the display wall. So clients only had to send one stream from their laptop to a big display wall. But with SAGE3, since everybody has a mirrored image of the content, if we were to still do peer-to-peer, which is what's shown in this little image, everybody would have to talk to each other. So if 10 people are in the room, I start a screen share, I now have to send from my laptop 10 different streams to 10 different people. And that started to cause performance issues for a lot of people because they have weaker laptops, or even stronger laptops would have issues with this once the numbers got high. So Twilio provides us a service called Group Video Rooms, which provides a selective forwarding unit. So what this does is I stream, if I'm about to screen share, I stream to Twilio, and then Twilio sends my stream out to everybody that's on the board. So it reduces my burden of having to stream to everybody. And then it makes it a lot easier also because Twilio's already done all like the port forwarding and any security that a corporation might have or firewall type stuff to make it through to get through everything, because we were having issues developing our own that did this. It's also, if you were to do this on your own servers, it would start to put a strain on your own server. The big thing with Twilio is it's a service. So it costs money. It's relatively low, but it does cost money. So what they charge is 0.004 cents per minute per participant. What they mean by that is if there's 2 users in a room screen sharing, for At 0.004, that's 2 users, 15 minutes, it would come out to 12 cents. If you had 15 participants in a room for 60 minutes, it would come out to around $3.60. And what this means is if you're on a board, it doesn't matter how many screen shares you have. If you have one screen share open, it would be charged $3.60 for this situation. If you had 10 screen shares open, it would still only be charged $3.60. So that's how screen sharing works in Sage. It's not a requirement to run Sage, but if you want screen sharing, this is our current solution for it. In the future, we might change this to be more open source, but this was our quick way to get it done because it isn't like a trivial problem to be able to stream from a server, other people's streams, and multiple streams. It's a more difficult problem, but there are solutions out there. We just haven't fully investigated them. I like the server. What's the minimum RAM or CPU type? So if we were to go for the minimum RAM and CPU, the cheapest server we have running right now is a Mac Mini M1. So that's, I don't know what the RAM or CPU in that computer is. Can you look that up, RJ? Mac Mini M1? It's a stronger CPU since it's an M1 processor. And if anybody's interested in Mac OS, it supports Intel processors or the new M1 Silicon processors.
Default 8 GB for RAM.
No, that's not 8 GB. I'm gonna assume it's like 16 or 8 GB on a Mac Mini.
8 GB.
16? 8 GB? So I don't know if that server's running 8 GB, but I would say the more the RAM, the better, because they get back into the architecture, they jump backwards. One of the key components of SAGE3 for our database, we use Redis, which is an in-memory database. We use Redis because it's fast and quick. And SAGE3 is a real-time application, so we need everything to be fast and quick. So since Redis is an in-memory database, you're going to want more memory the more as your server grows and gets more users and more content on it. So to quickly go over the architecture, let me know if I go over time.
No problem, Ryan, because we started late. So please feel free to extend the time. Yeah.
So the basic architecture, also if this topic isn't interested, but I think people will be interested in this topic. The architecture is, so this back end right here, this annotation. So this is the server in the back, whole back end. This green box is Node. So we use Node.js for our backend server. And then a couple other images that we use Redis for our database. Jupyter Lab. So when I was running that Sage cell and it was processing that code, it gets sent off to Jupyter Lab. So Jupyter Lab kind of manages our kernels. Foresight, it's our Python AI, which is ran by Professor Madi Belkad. I'm not going to talk about it because it's a little outside of my realm. I don't do much of the AI stuff, but it is a Docker image of its own that interacts with SAGE3 through the node server. For interacting with Redis, we wrote our little own database interface called SageBase. It stores, it turns Redis into like a NoSQL database of like collections and documents. So everything on the board, so like this little sticky right here, it's just a JSON document inside the Redis database, which we're calling just documents. And then all the sticky notes are contained in a collection called applications. The SageBase allows us to use Redis as a collection document style database. The communication pipelines. So when I send that update to the server, when I move this little sticky note, the path it takes, it goes from my client up to the HTTP WebSocket. So that's just like the communication channel. It gets sent to SageBase. SageBase verifies it. It goes into Redis. And then SageBase then sends out a publication that, hey, this app is updated to all the other clients. So if there's like another client here, it would get sent out to this client, that client, it populates out. All over WebSocket, so it's not using HTTP for everything, but it uses it for some things. The same thing with like the asset manager. If I was to drag and drop a file, gets sent up to the HTTP, goes to the asset manager, stores it on a mounted volume from the Docker image, which then gets sent out to SageBase and stored into Redis as a reference. So that's like the basic overview of everything in the sense for the back end. The front end, it's client computer, the Electron app, and then it houses the React web application that we use. So everything that you see on this front end is React. So we're using React for our framework for the front end. The back end, home base that we call it, it's Redis, Node.js, Express.js, and TypeScript. So that's another big thing. SAGE2 is written in JavaScript. Since TypeScript has become so popular, I really like typings in a programming language, especially when you're working with multiple people. It's made stuff a lot more stable because issues are found out before you bundle your code instead of after you bundle your code and the server crashes. Yeah, so that's all TypeScript is. It's JavaScript with types. To go to the web app, it's TypeScript also and React. So this is a web application. The front, the communication channels. So that's what's communicating with the back end. It then gets the store. The store is like the copy of the back end state on the client side. So this is trying to manage, keep that state in sync with the back end. And then React components then interact with those stores. They only interface with those stores. So like all the apps, the cursors, the backgrounds, the viewports, all the applications, they just talk to these stores. So if you're writing applications, all you care about are the stores. And then all the synchronization happens automatically. Not automatically, but with our code. So like the developers on the front end don't have to worry about talking to the server. They just talk to the stores. That's a really quick rundown of the architecture. We are about to do a paper that will go into more detail about it, and the documentation will also cover everything in much more detail. Then app development. So like I said earlier, there's integrated apps, which is like those apps that are built into the source code, anything that kind of shows up here that needs a little more features. Then there's plugin apps, which is that demo I showed you with the basic HTML page or leaflet or Unity. So like I said or mentioned earlier, there's the Sage plugin, the SAGE3 plugin. Which you would import into your web app, and then it helps you use SAGE3 to sync your app across clients. What I mean is that you would import this plugin package. Using TypeScript, you'd say what's the state shape, what's the type of your state of your app. Then you initialize the SAGE3 plugin, and within your app, you subscribe to updates. So any updates that happen to your app will get sent out to all the other clients, and then you can push updates to all the other clients using just the update function. So there's only two functions you have to worry about: subscribe to updates and update. To build a plugin app, you don't have to use this if you don't want to sync state across users. But if you want to sync state across multiple users within your web app, this plugin enables you to do that. And this is all documented within the Sage. So there's that server deployment file I showed you before. There's also an application development document, which goes into all of this, which I'll send out to Moores, so you can send it out to everybody else. So if you want to make plugin apps within SAGE3, it's all documented here. It goes into if you want to make a web app, or if you want to make a Unity application and get it into SAGE3. and how to upload it to the server, the whole process of clicking plugins, how you upload it, and how to actually open it up on the board. We're recommending a framework called Vite, which is kind of new, but it makes everything a lot easier from a JavaScript perspective of making your app, bundling it up. But you don't have to use that. You can use whatever you want. And then some future plans. So like how I was saying, the AI integration, instead of having it sort of be, we kind of envision it being integrated within all the apps. So like from like a sticky perspective, this is a silly little demo, but there'll be like a little AI icon that you'd click on, and like a little SAGE3 AI assistant would pop up, sort of like ChatGPT, where you'd ask it, write me a poem about dogs and sushi, and then it just fills that sticky note in with what you requested. So we kind of envision it as like a feature that's built in all over SAGE3. So instead of stickies, it would be in the Sage cells where you could just click it and be like, hey, can you write me a function, a Fibonacci function, and just put it into my code cell. Then it would automatically populate it in. And co-browse. So this is a big issue. Multiple clients, multiple views. Web views in Sage 2, there's only one instance of the web view up on the big display wall. Users interacted with it by sending mouse events to that one instance. But now when I open a web view, so if I was to open Amazon over here, because it's multiple clients, multiple people, my Amazon is going to look different than what Morris sees, because he's in Thailand, I'm in US. My Amazon, I have different ads, different cookies, different things on my IP that they track. Who knows what Amazon tracks and stuff. So getting apps, web views to sync 100% is a non-trivial issue, which we're going to tackle in the future. We still have web views in there, but just be aware they might not perfectly sync just because of the nature of the web, and because we're having to show it on multiple clients everywhere. So our solution in the future, which we're going to have to investigate over the summer, is that the server renders a web page, and then the server streams that out to everybody. So, and the person would open, let's say, a website, the server renders it on the back end, keeps an instance of it running, then streams it out to everybody. So everybody's just getting kind of a video of a web page. And then when clients click into it, so if I was to click into that like picture inside the middle of that girl's face, it would then send that click back to the server, and then the server would cause that event to happen within its instance, which then it would then stream out whatever the response to that is. So that's one of the solutions we're going to try and investigate. But web views right now, just be aware that they're not completely synced how they were in like Sage 2. They are still useful, from my perspective. Especially if you go to a website that doesn't have ads or tracking. Like if you set up your own website, and it will just have the same view, then that is useful still. So yeah, that was Sage 3 in a nutshell. I don't know if there's any more questions. If Jason or RJ has anything to add.
I have one question, Ryan.
Yep.
Yeah, let's say I just want to set up server within organization or within my lab. I don't want the other, public user or outside of the lab to access the my server. In this case, do I still need domain name for the server setup?
I don't think you need to. I think you could type in an IP address. We haven't tested that yet.
Okay.
When I say type in an IP address, if I go back to the server list, it might work if you type like an IP address into here.
Okay.
Yeah. Certificate wise, as long as you can I think there's a generator in the server deployment folder to generate like spoof certificates, kind of like how Sage 2 used to do.
Okay.
We haven't tested that full functionality, but we have had multiple people request that. So that is something we're going to support for sure.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because in your documentation, I think one of the prerequisite is the domain name. Okay, so I'm just not sure if I can do that.
Let me talk with the Chicago people who are much more informative about DevOps and server deployments. So let me talk
Okay.
with them and see how we can go
Okay.
forward to make sure you can get your server set up.
Okay. And for this
Also,
type of oh, sorry, Rand. Okay.
So, also, Lawrence, I noticed you joined the SAGE3 Slack channel. Go ahead and post your question directly, and Luke will answer it pretty quickly.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, Luke,
Maybe one.
Luke in Chicago. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. One more question here. And do I still need SSL certificate if I aim for this local server setup?
That'll be another question for Luke that
Okay. Sure.
he's really like the server deployment guy, the DevOps.
Okay. Okay.
From my understanding
Okay.
is you should be able to spoof the certificates.
Okay.
Just haven't fully tested that yet because we haven't set up a server like that. But we
Okay.
do have multiple clients that want to, so.
Okay. Thank you.
If you drop both those questions into the Slack, Luke will answer them.
Okay. Sure.
quick. When I say in the Slack, like, you can just drop it right into the general chat and then he'll answer.
Okay.
Luke was I don't know if you know, Luke was one of the core developers on SAGE2 also. So I was not a
see.
developer on SAGE2. I'm kind of new sense of the SAGE world with SAGE3.
Okay. พิชพลมีคำถามอะไรไหมก่อนเซตอัพอ่ะ Okay. Any questions? Okay, looks like there is no question from the audience.
Okay.
Oh, okay. There is one question now.
Okay, I have one question relating to the create the room. Now I just create one room, and it can. Do you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. So I can show you how to create a room real quick.
I already create the room in Hawaii. It's named Cambodian SAGE.
Oh, okay.
You're right.
I want to ask you if can anyone delete my room, or yes, can anyone delete it?
So only the creator of the room or board can delete that board or room. So for you, if you look off to the right here, this little gear icon, that should be active for you to where you can click it and pull up like a modal. So like I haven't created any rooms. So if I created a room, Ryan room, my room, I'm gonna delete this. So Ryan room. So this little gear icon to the right allows me to edit my room. I can change the room name, new name, and update. So now that room is now new name, but I can also delete it from here. But everybody else, all these other boards were created by other people, so I can't do anything with those boards. So only the creator of the board or room can delete it.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Well, any more questions?
Okay, I guess there is no more question.
Okay. Appreciate you guys allowing me to do a presentation on SAGE. Sorry I couldn't be there. I'm still having passport issues, so it's a good thing I didn't try and buy tickets and all that.
Oh, okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm glad to see both you and Jason, and I feel very bad that I and everyone here could not greet you properly because of the communication problem at the beginning. Yeah, but we all glad to see you here. Yeah, it feels strange for the workshop to be, I mean, without Jason. Okay, so yeah.
I'm sure you'll do just
I mean-
fine.
Yeah, I mean physically, without you, yeah, it feels strange. Yeah. Okay, and yeah, actually, today we have the Vice President for the Information Technology at Mahidol University visiting us. Maybe I can show you. Okay. 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 And yeah, this is the US team from University of Hawaii who is the creator of the SAGE3 software that is the central technology for the LandSAGE project. Okay, he is training us in the various aspects of the SAGE3. Okay. So I think that's all, right? From you, Ryan and Jason.
That's all we have, yeah.
Okay. Maybe I will have everyone say goodbye to you. Let me pan the camera. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone say goodbye to Jason and Ryan. Bye bye. Thanks a lot, Jason, Ryan.
Here.
Okay.